right, everybody, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is December 1st, 2025. How we are in the last month of the year already, I have no idea. And yet here we are. We are live streaming, as always, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Locals. If you have not yet joined us for the post-game show, there's a lot going on there. You can ask me all sorts of questions. You can critique, criticize, belittle me, whatever you want to do. RubinReport.locals.com, post-game show after the show every day. And we are just diving in, obviously, out of the studio for a couple days. And I hope everybody had just a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend. Hope you ate a ton of food. I'm feeling it. I was trying to do as much exercise as possible throughout, but it's a losing game over those couple days for sure. But I hope you ate some great food. I hope you're with family. I hope you had some time to not only be thankful, but grateful and appreciative for this incredible country that we live in that is under attack from every which direction, which I think is largely what today's show is about. And we're going to get you caught up on some of the things that we missed, some bad stuff that started in D.C. I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about, and then some good stuff over the weekend. So let's just dive right into some of the news that we missed on Friday. And there's massive fallout as it relates to it. So this isn't just a recap. But here from the Daily Wire, 2 National Guard troops were shot near the White House on Wednesday afternoon. Both of the troops targeted in the attack are from West Virginia and were in uniform when they were shot. A senior U.S. official told NBC News that both of the National Guardsmen were shot in the head, and the suspect reportedly used a handgun. The suspected gunman was identified as 29-year-old Rahmanullah Lakawanalan, an Afghan national who came to the United States during Biden administration's disastrous withdrawal from the country in 2021. The male suspect was critically wounded and taken into custody. The FBI will reportedly investigate the shooting as an act of terrorism. Lakanawal was allowed to enter the United States under Operation Allies Welcome, and he settled in Bellingham, Washington. Of the 2 National Guard members shot in Washington, D.C., one, Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, has died, while the other, Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, remains in critical condition, and that's as of November 30th, so just 2 days ago. So obviously you've all heard about that story specifically. We're going to dive in a little bit more on some of the nuance to it, and then really it has now burst forth, the bigger story over the weekend, which is related to, well, it's related to a little bit of everything. It's related to immigration, it's related to crime, it's related to deportations, it's related to ICE, it's related to homegrown radicalism, which we are seeing much more of, which I've been saying for the last 2 years. It's one thing to deal with all of the illegals that we have here, but now we have a tremendous amount of homegrown, let's say, terrorist sympathizing people in this country, and what do we do with them? Anyway, here's a quick video. This is new footage of the suspect holding a gun while a National Guardsman is running down the street. This is real quick.
New video obtained by the Wall Street Journal shows part of the shooting unfolding on Wednesday afternoon. The video taken by a witness shows the suspect holding a gun as a National Guardsman runs down the street. 5 seconds later, the outlet reports the Guardsman fires loud shots. Lakanwal is now facing first-degree murder for the death of 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, as 24-year-old Andrew Wolf remains in critical condition.
Okay, so as if that wasn't bad enough, these are 2 people serving the country in our nation's capital the weekend of Thanksgiving. As if that is not bad enough, there's more as it pertains to what's going on with some of these Afghans that we have legally let in here. And when I say we, I mean the Auto Pen and Joe Biden and that whole administration. We'll have more on that in just a second. But listen to this from Eric Daughtry breaking. This is a separate story. Afghan alien arrested after stating he is building a bomb targeting the Fort Worth, Texas area. Mohammad Alokozay came in under Operations Allies Welcome, same one under Biden and Mayorkas, just like National Guard shooter Rahmanullah Lakwanahan. We are under attack. We have imported violent Muslims, and they are trying in wait to strike. We must get them out now and put Mayorkas on trial for his crimes. This arrest happened on Tuesday. So obviously some of that is Eric editorializing there, but it is becoming more and more obvious that not only do we have, as I just said, there has been an illegal immigration problem with about 20 million people who came in 4 years under Biden. But then not only do we have the homegrown thing that I just addressed, but we also have the legal immigration from these countries where we did not vet properly, even if there was a way to vet properly. And now we have multiple pronged problem that we are fighting against. I want to read you this tweet. It was making the rounds over the weekend for good reason from my good friend, wish he was still with us, Charlie Kirk. This is June 9th, 2025. He wrote, "It's time to ban third world immigration, legal or illegal. We've reached our limit and we have a huge cultural, educational, housing, financial, and essential services problem to fix now because of it. We need a net zero immigration moratorium with a ban on all third worlders." Okay, so first off, let me point out that nothing, you can put the tweet up for just a second more, that nothing Charlie said there was racist. It is not racist nor xenophobic or anything else to defend the borders of your country, to decide who can come. Do they have the skills that are needed in this country? If they come, is that going to put natives out of work? Do they fit with us culturally? Do they care about the same things? Do they have the same values, et cetera, et cetera? So what Charlie was pointing out there, that's about 6 months or so ago, is something that is deeply, deeply obvious. And I think it's finally now, you know how obvious things are always on an airlock delay before they get to the mainstream. Well, I think it is bursting to the mainstream, especially after the shooting over the last couple of days. But now I want to jump back because so much of this does fall. It didn't happen by accident. We let these people in knowingly. I want to jump back to November of 2021. And here is then White House spokesperson Jen Psaki assuring us that all of the Afghanistans who are coming, they're just going to be fine and wonderful and decent, and we're vetting the hell out of them.
You've talked about this a little bit, others have as well, but there are, of course, concerns among lawmakers, experts who've tracked this, who say in previous arrivals of large numbers of refugees from different parts of the world, inevitably there may be a handful, small handful, who are eventually deemed a security risk of some kind. What reassurances can you make about the screening process and the attempts to make sure that somebody like that doesn't make his or her way here?
I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process. And there are many individuals, as you noted, who have not been through that process, and they have gone to lily pad countries as that process has been completed.
Okay. We don't play many videos of that lady anymore, and thankfully, because I don't like her very much. It's just pure nonsense. The question was correct. In essence, like, how do we know who these people are? How do we know? Okay, it doesn't mean that all the people from Afghanistan are awful. Of course they're not. And of course, many of them yearn for freedom and all sorts of stuff. That's obvious. That is low-hanging fruit drivel. Her response then is, I can assure you, she says, I absolutely can assure you that we've thoroughly screened them, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, lady, how? How did you do it? First off, should we have trusted your administration in the first place, right? You guys, at the same time you're telling us you're vetting those people, you're not vetting anybody that's coming through the southern border. So you're vetting those people. Well, who are the people that we have doing the vetting? Can we find out some information about them? Do they even love the country? Like, a little bit would be interesting. And then just look at this picture. This is from 2021. This is from N Wokeness. Plane loads, he or she, whoever runs the account, put this up a few days ago and wrote, plane loads of jihadists were airlifted to our towns by Biden and Mayorkas in 2021. So look, I'm not saying all of those people are jihadists, and it is very possible that some of them were people who were helping Americans on the ground in Afghanistan before that ridiculously horrible withdrawal. But look at all those people. Are you telling me that that the Biden administration, which was so negligent across the board in every which way, but particularly as it pertains to the border, are you telling me that when all of these people showed up, the plane lands, wherever that plane landed, and you're telling me they were vetted properly, that they were asked the right questions, there was a real way to track it, that they were able to even, I don't know, you'd have to call maybe somebody in Afghanistan who was in a position of authority and say, oh, what that person is saying is true. They didn't just make up a whole story. Like, the idea that we did all of that is completely insane, and you'd have to be brain dead to believe it, which is why Psaki had the job that she did. I want to now jump back to 2021 once again, and here is then Senator J.D. Vance going off on politicians who care more about the people we just showed you in the plane right there, rather than caring about, I don't know, say Americans.
The question is not whether we honor our word. The question is, who have we made promises to? Who do we owe an obligation toward? And to any leader of this country, the obvious answer should be American citizens. So let's focus first on getting them out of Afghanistan before we say another word about the Afghan refugees. Now, Senator Sass also said that he would welcome the Afghan refugees to his neighborhood with open arms. That's very sweet of him. I'm sure a lot of liberals will say very nice things about him because he said that. But the question is not whether we help the Afghan refugees. The question is, first, how do we do it? And second, how do we do it in a way that doesn't destroy our own sovereignty? So let's have an honest question about what exists in Afghanistan. According to Pew, 40% of the people there believe that blowing yourself up, committing a suicide bombing, is an acceptable way to solve a problem.
Coming soon to the Democrat Party, like those numbers will bear out. I guarantee you, 3 years from now, 40% of Democrats are going to believe in suicide bombing. They actually kind of do now. They believe that violence to get to the ends of your political conclusion is allowed. Well, it's not, right? And once you say violence is okay on my side because I'm the good guy, well, then someone's going to say it on the other side. But largely what JD is laying out there is the standard thing that he's able to do all the time, which is calmly explain the ridiculousness around some of these policies. Americans should care about America and our borders and our sovereignty. It doesn't mean that we have nothing to do with the rest of the world. It doesn't mean that you can't find people and cultures and countries that you can work with to do all sorts of things, like the global community exists. But we do have to accept that there are places in the world that people have been taught things and ancient hatreds and everything else that our simple vetting system of when we put them on a plane and bring them here might not figure out all of the ways that they intend to harm us. And by the way, it's not rocket science. Here's Donald Trump also back in 2021 predicting that we might have a problem when it comes to these Afghan refugees.
And nobody knows who the hell they are, Cheryl. These aren't the interpreters that we taught. These were people that rushed into the planes. And they were so interested in trying to make it sound like, oh, they're doing a good job. These people, many of these people are going to be terrorists, okay? They're going to be terrorists. They were very powerful. They were very energetic in getting onto the aircraft.
They say they're vetting them very carefully with biometrics and documentation.
They're not doing that. And you can't, because there is no documentation in that country.
You know, interestingly, Cheryl Atkinson, who is the interviewer there, she's a pretty decent journalist. She really is. What she said there was, they say. Okay, but why should we believe them? Why would you believe an administration? At that time, it was the Biden administration. They were lying to us about what was happening on the southern border. They were lying to us about COVID. They were lying to us about censorship related to free speech. They were big tech. They were lying to us about Hunter Biden. I mean, they were lying to us about a gajillion things. So, and I'd have to watch the extended version of this. And again, I'm not throwing Cheryl under the bus here. But it's like, don't take their word for it. They say, well, we're doing biometrics and everything. Trump is right. And that's the thing with Trump. He's always kind of directionally right about these things, right? Of course, some of these people were going to turn out to be terrorists. And of course, there was no real way of vetting them. This is obvious and everyone knows it. So anyway, subsequently, you've got the shooting in D.C. You have the bomb-making plot near Fort Worth, Texas. There's a whole bunch of other things that are going on. And I'm always worried about the things that we don't know, too, because our government is able to stop a lot of things. You may remember about a year and a half ago, I had Joe Lonsdale in here, and Joe is one of the co-founders of Palantir with Peter Thiel. And he talked about there's a little bit of an oxymoron and a problem sort of optically when it comes to what some of these companies like Palantir do, because they work with governments to stop terrorist attacks. Thus, people think that there are less terrorist attacks and are more open to letting people in, but it's because they're doing the work that we don't even know about. But let's put that aside and get us back to the weekend. Here's Trump talking about how we better start denaturalizing some of these criminals that we have let into the country.
Criminals that came into our country and they were naturalized maybe through a Biden or somebody that didn't know what they were doing. If I have the power to do it, I'm not sure that I do, but if I do, I would denaturalize absolutely.
You announced that asylum.
And that includes Somalians and it includes plenty of others.
How long does your administration plan to pause asylum into the U.S.?
I think a long time.
Can you give any kind of time?
We don't want those people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people.
Is that a year, 2 years?
No time limit. But it could be a long time.
You said.
I mean, I get it what the reporter's doing. She's really trying to pin him on a date or a timeline or something, and he's just right. I just think about it this way. Like, think about everything going on in the country right now. Think about what's sort of happening in the world, and we're seeing sort of worldwide jihad break out everywhere. We'll have more on that in just a little bit. Is there anything racist, or just forget racist? Is there anything fundamentally wrong with saying, hey, for an unknown period of time right now, we're shutting it down. We're shutting down the borders. We're not allowing these people to come in. We're going to try to figure out who is here, like taking a pause. Imagine if in your own house you had all sorts of problems, right? The door was broken and people kept wandering in and doing drugs and raping your sister. And, there was a fire in the kitchen and a whole bunch of other stuff going on. Would it not be your right in your house to kick everybody out that was doing no good, get your house in order, clean your room, stand up straight with your shoulders back? Has anyone heard of any of this stuff? And then figure out what is going on. Like, it's so obvious and real and true. And then, of course, what's particularly interesting is that the conversation, I think, has finally shifted, right? We've always been focused, and Trump has done an awful lot to shift the narrative when it came to illegal immigration and the border. The border is now closed. We know that. Nobody's getting through that border illegally. But now there's the secondary problem, right? There's a secondary and tertiary problem. There's the problem that we let people in legally without vetting properly. That's one thing. And then now we have the homegrown thing. So now I wanted to show you something on the homegrown side. So there's this guy. He's a New York Times writer. I've debated this guy a couple times on Piers Morgan. He's just awful. His name is Wajahat Ali. And here he is explaining his brownness and how we white people in America have made a mistake. I mean, it's odd that he's saying the quiet part out loud by letting people like him in. I believe he's from Pakistan. We'll confirm that in just a second, or his family is, but we'll take a look. Take a look.
You have lost. You lost. The mistake that you made is you let us in the first place. See, that's the thing with brown people. And I'm going to say this as a brown person. There's a lot of us. Like a lot. There's like 1.2 billion in India. There's more than 200 million in Pakistan. There's like 170 million in Bangladesh. Those are just the people there. I'm even talking about the folks who are expats or immigrants. There's a bunch of us. And we breed. We're a breeding people. Some white women, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them. They come to us. So we're embedded. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. I've traveled this country. I'm going to speak as a brown person. Brown people are everywhere. You have lost. Your story is a story filled with misery. It's filled with bland chicken. It's filled with terrible, terrible dry ass meat. Your music sucks. All your culture sucks. Nobody. That's why the kids listen to black people and their music. That's why the kids love Latinos.
All right, look, I don't call people racist on this show that often, and I think all of these terms become sort of meaningless. But that's a racist. Like, that is a good old-fashioned racist. That is not a reverse racist or anything else. He's a terrible, terrible human being who cares far more about his brownness than his Americanism. And he loves the fact that there's more of them and they will outbreed us. And then all just like that, just drivelous, jokes from 20 years ago, white people eat bland chicken. Yeah, go to Nashville and try some of the Nashville hot chicken and tell me if that's bland. Why don't you try that? I've actually got some of that seasoning in the kitchen right now. It'll kick the shit out of you. And their music is bad, right? I'm not a huge country music guy, but country music actually is great. And also white people have been making music. It's so low level nothing, but you're probably right. Maybe we shouldn't have let people like you into the country because you are here to destroy it. His parents are from Pakistan, by the way. But anyway, I debated this guy a whole bunch of times and he's just a disingenuous, you can just read it off him, disingenuous, slimy, just awful. So the last time I was on Piers Morgan, this is 10 seconds, I just couldn't take it anymore, and this is how the show basically ended. In the spirit of bringing us together, I want to send Wajid a gift after the show. I don't have his mailing address, but I just wrote "You tried" and I signed it on a piece of paper here. So can you guys just get this to his people? Would that be possible? Because he tried real hard today. Yeah, he tries. It's just trying, but that is racist bullshit. And I would suspect that he's basically telling you, we brown people this. We're going to outbreed you. Your culture sucks and everything else. Well, what are you doing here? How about go back to Pakistan then? I don't even mean that to be a dick. If you think things are so great there and the chicken is so great there and the meat ain't dry over there and the music's better over there and everything else, go back. What are you doing hanging out with us white people? I don't know. Think about it, dude. Let's talk about wild Alaskan salmon, which, depending on the seasoning, can be quite delicious, whether you are white or black or brown or green. And then we'll have more on racists and racist things after. When was the last time you truly trusted the seafood you brought home? For me, it used to be a guessing game. That all changed when I discovered Wild Alaskan Company. Wild Alaskan Company delivers wild-caught and nutrient-dense seafood right to your door. No antibiotics, no GMOs, no additives, just clean fish that supports healthy oceans and fishing communities. I've especially loved cooking their coho salmon. It's rich, flavorful, and so versatile. Every piece is frozen right off the boat to lock in taste, texture, and nutrients like omega-3s. Plus, every order supports sustainable harvesting practices you can feel good about. And if you're not completely satisfied with your first box, they'll refund you in full. No questions asked. Not all fish are the same, guys. Get seafood you can trust at wildalaskan.com/Rubin for $35 off your first box of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/Rubin for $35 off your first order. All right, so what has happened here? How is it that we ended up in this situation where we've let in people who want to murder us, where we have people that work at the New York Times, like that Waj Hadat guy who seemingly hates white people and is so proud of where he came from and thinks it's so much better, yet wants to be here, where just everyone who tries to be pro-America is deemed a Nazi and a racist and everything. It's like, how did we get here? Well, it's because we lost culture, right? And as Andrew Breitbart used to say, politics is downstream from culture. So now we showed you this video about a year ago, and I think this sort of shows the leftist brain rot kind of perfectly and how it infiltrates culture. This is comedian Louis C.K., and he's on Joe Rogan's show talking about why we need open borders here in America. We just have it too good, and we should be awful like everywhere else.
But my feeling is they should open it, the border, and just let them pour in, let everybody pour in, and then the answer, which is, well, then there'll be all these problems. Yes, there should be. It shouldn't be so great here, is what I'm saying, in America. It shouldn't be. It's a weird thing to sequester a certain group of people and try to keep upping their lifespan and their lifestyle and just keep trying to increase that for this group of people. And then this pressure of people trying to come in so they can enjoy it. And then it gets worse and worse down here. I mean, I'm not in Canada. It's really just from down here. There's something wrong with that. That's not a system that's working.
Okay, so I don't know if he's being a little sarcastic or trying to be funny. I guess he's a comic, whatever. But you get the broad point. Like that, the thing that he's talking about, we have it good in America. And people out there don't have it good. So what, in essence, he's saying, why have a nation state? Why have borders and everything else? We should all share in the misery. And that is a leftist notion, right? What are they constantly telling us? America's systemically racist, it's awful, it's horrible, capitalism is evil. Open up the borders so everyone can be part of this thing. If it was bad, people would be leaving, right? But even the Afghanis and the Somalis we have here don't want to leave. So I guess it is not that bad. But the reason I wanted to show you that clip is not that he's so important, but I think it gets to the sort of guilty leftist notion of everything. And it's like, you don't want to leave this country either, man. So why do you want to ruin it from the inside? Like, I have no doubt you're worth probably tens of millions of dollars and you live in a probably very fancy place. And how many Afghani immigrants do you have in your backyard? Probably none, but you go on Rogan's show and you say all those things. We were able to obtain, last time I was in Nashville, I got some of this. It is Hattie B's dry spice. This is the hot blend, and I'm telling you, this will kick your ass. And just because I did not know, did it come, maybe this was brought in by Pakistani people who moved to Nashville and did it, but I went on the website just now, and it appears to be brought to us by a white family. The dad worked in a restaurant business. Look, the white guy right there, and he enjoys hot chicken. And it's delicious. And put a little honey on there, and you're gonna and some pickles and some coleslaw. And what are we having for lunch today? Anyway, let's continue with the program. This from the New York Times. Trump uses National Guard shooting to cast suspicion on refugees. President Trump claimed there were a lot of problems with Afghans without providing evidence, as his administration announced that it was implementing new immigration guidelines. So the reason I'm showing you that, obviously, is this. We're just in the same old script we are always in, right? Somebody comes into the country because of an idiotic Democrat situation. They shoot our National Guardsmen. There's somebody else is trying to buy a bomb to blow up Fort Worth, Texas. Then the New York Times basically puts out a headline saying Donald Trump's using, it's right, what is it? Republicans pounce. That's what they always say. Republicans pounce. So they killed 30 people in a club. Republicans are pouncing again. It's just completely ridiculous. We are allowed to decide who is in our country and figure out if the vetting process was done properly, which of course it wasn't. It's not even a question. But we are up against a bunch of morons and retards. We'll have more on the word retard in just a second. But first, here is a retard, Jasmine Crockett, demanding that we deport the white supremacists. She doesn't know where they are, but maybe we can find them and deport them.
That's the case. Let's talk about the white supremacists and how many of them need to be kicked out of this country, because I can guarantee you I can track down more crimes that they've committed, because overall immigrants have a lower crime committal rate than white supremacists. But we don't want to talk about that in this country.
Okay, overall, immigrants have a lower crime committal rate. Well, first off, we're talking about illegal immigrants, which is a crime in and of itself, even though you, and I know you're a lawyer, you seem to not know that illegal has something to do with things being not legal. That's number one. Number two, there are white supremacists. There are people who believe, let's say a KKK style, like white people should have separate businesses and they should reign supreme. And they're right, that supreme is in the word, supremacist. There are some of them, but what are you saying? Now, first off, if they're allowed to have their beliefs, actually, people are allowed to have noxious beliefs. It's when you put those things into action that is the problem. It's when you start discriminating against people. It's when you start threatening and murdering people and a whole bunch of other stuff, taking over cities and forcing people to live a certain way. I don't know, putting a woman in a beekeeper costume. It's that kind of stuff that's the problem, right? But what are you saying? Are you saying you're going to just round up white supremacists who are legal American citizens and kick them out? I mean, that's basically what you said there, lady. So we'll see how that goes. And again, we talked about it last week. She may run for Senate. God help us all, from Texas. So now I want to jump over because there's been a lot of stuff going on with the Somali situation in Minnesota and a huge amount of corruption that is breaking out of Minnesota right now. So this is a video from a couple months ago of Ilhan Omar, a woman who married her brother, which is a violation of federal immigration law, who is now a congressperson, apparently. Big Hamas supporter, by the way. Here she is talking about how proud she is of her Somali heritage.
Why do you think Nancy Mace is targeting you as much as she is?
It's an easy clickbait. There is a lot of hate in this country for Muslims. There's a lot of hate in this country for black people, especially black women. And there is a lot of hate, severe hate for immigrants. And so I fit them all. And I was, of course, born in Somalia, which the president likes to mention. And I'm also proud of my Somali heritage, and that is not something that they can take away from me.
All right, so there's a reason I'm showing you that old clip. I mean, it's worth noting that we are the least, America right now, 2025, is the least racist nation in the history of the world. And I literally mean that, history. It's why everyone wants to come here. It's why we have no laws that discriminate against you, Ilhan Omar, or anyone who dresses like you, or even who behaves like you, right? Although you did marry your brother, and that is a problem. And this is one of those things. I always talk about the airlock, right? Online, we talk about things for years, and then it finally breaks through to the mainstream. Well, Ilhan marrying her brother is finally breaking through to the mainstream. Here's Donald Trump talking about it.
Frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country. The people from different countries that are not friendly to us, and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them. What are you talking about?
All right, so as far as I know, that's the first time Trump has directly addressed the Ilhan marrying her brother thing, but that is a bit of the airlock breaking, and I think you're going to start seeing more and more about it. And if she committed federal illegal immigration fraud, well, yeah, you might get kicked out of the country and certainly get kicked out of Congress, and then they'll use it to say that we're racist and all that stuff. That's how the game is played, but you guys know all that. The other interesting thing as it pertains to all of this is, to me, this is just one of those things that's a win for Trump, right? It is just a win for Trump by doing basic things. We're going to protect our border. We're going to look at the people who came over who are up to no good and, I don't know, murdering our National Guardsmen in our country's capital, et cetera, et cetera. But as he does more good, you can see what mainstream is going to do. And I started seeing this last week. There were all these people people are abandoning Trump in droves. And I said on the show last week, I don't know anyone that's abandoned Trump. I know an awful lot of, I know people actually, literally people, who didn't vote for Trump, who are pretty happy with what he's done, because they are actually happy with the border stuff, and they're happy that the hostages are out and that the world seems a little more peaceful and all those things. I don't know anyone, just nobody, but please tell me in the comments, show me somebody, a two-time Trump voter who's not into Trump anymore. Scott Jennings brings up that exact point here on CNN.
Heard from many folks who were Trump supporters, voted for Trump both times, who's like, well, this is not what I voted for. And what they're referring to specifically are families being torn apart, kids being having their parents picked up and taken away from in front of schools.
I'm interested in your two-time Trump voting friends who are apparently phone banking you that are surprised that he is interested in enforcing our immigration laws, because it is literally what he's been running on since he started in 2015. If you voted for Donald Trump two or three times and you're unsure about why he's deporting people, I dispute it.
Yeah, well done, Scott. I mean, all he does is go on that show and just calls bullshit on them. Like, that woman just completely made it up. I'm not saying no one exists. There are people that could be frustrated with Trump for one way or another. You're not, you're 10 months in and you're going, not enough good stuff happened quickly enough or anything else. But okay, are you voting for a Democrat? No freaking way. And the two-time Trump voter, Trump's main thing was cleaning up the border, and that he 100% has done, right? So it's just not true. They just spread nonsense to shift the narrative, and there he is debunking it. But also, she's just making up stuff that families are being torn apart. Okay, where are the videos? Where are the videos? The kids are being grabbed at school. They keep telling us that cars are showing up and grabbing random brown people and everything else. It's all complete nonsense. What did Jon Stewart say a few weeks ago? They're throwing Abuela on the floor, the linoleum floor in the kitchen, and grabbing her. It's strange. Everyone's walking around with one of these fucking things, and nobody is ever pressing the button. Why is that? There's a record button on this thing. Get those videos out there. Abuela's head on the linoleum. Come on. Let's talk about Morgan & Morgan, and then we'll go back to Minnesota, where Tim Walz, who almost was vice president, apparently, where he's in some deep doo-doo. If you've ever been seriously hurt in an accident, your injury could actually be worth millions, and most people have no idea. Insurance companies love to lowball claims, offering way less than what you deserve. That's why there's Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys across 50 states. They've been fighting for people for more than 30 years, and they don't settle for lowball offers. Just recently, they won $12 million in Florida, $26 million in Philadelphia, and $6.8 million in New York, all way above what insurance companies offered. And the best part, it's completely free unless you win. No upfront costs, no hidden fees. It takes only a couple minutes to see if you have a case. Did you know you can start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just one click? It's super easy. Just go to forthepeople.com/Rubin or click the link in the description and pin comment. Okay, so we're going to jump back to Minnesota in just a second, but I want to read a condensed version of this. Might be for Donald Trump. This is wordy over on Truth Social. Listen to this. A very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. That's a hell of a sentence. The official United States foreign population stands at 53 million people, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons. A migrant earning $30,000 with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. This refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II, failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages, etc. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressman/woman in the country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab and who probably came into the USA illegally, in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's autopen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country. End all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, a security risk, or non-compliant with Western civilization. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. I have to say, that is, it's wordy, some colorful language. That's Trump at his best. He's just telling the truth about what is going on here. We showed you a chart last week about the amount of monetary value that people coming from other countries bring in or cost America. And Somalis these are numbers in terms of the benefits they get and the value that they provide. Somalis cost America a lot of money. But also to the backdrop of all of the craziness around terrorism and borders and Gaza and all of this lunacy, there is some reason to put a pause on everything, right? Like, get your house in order first. Anyway, Tim Walz was not happy about that, and here he is going after Trump.
Look, Donald Trump insulting me is a badge of honor for me, but I think we all know, as both as an educator for a couple decades and as a parent, using that term is just so damaging. It's hurtful.
Okay, so look, I use the word retarded here. I'm a child of the 80s, and in the 80s, no one meant it in the most literal sense of what the constantly offended class think of as retarded. Retarded, it just meant slow. It meant you're kind of dumb. It didn't mean, actually, my God, we went to the dictionary definition from Oxford. What does retard mean? Delay or hold back in terms of progress, development, or accomplishment, right? So if you retard something, you basically are pausing it from advancing properly. Ironically, the progressives are always trying to progress, and they're the ones that are retarding progression because they're progressing us towards retardation. That might be the best sentence I've ever said on the show. But okay, devil his due. Is there a decent human being out there that hears Donald Trump say retarded and is not happy about it? Yes. And could that offend people? Yes. And everything else. And is there a difference between me saying it on a show being silly with you guys and editorializing versus the president of the United States saying it? Yes. At the same time, can I get my panties in a bunch over it, knowing Trump for the last 10 years and how he has to fight the machine? And part of the way he fights it is using choice language because they don't know how to react to it and they always overreact to the choice language rather than the policy that he's setting, which is good. Okay, you get all of that. But Tim Walz, that he would have the temerity to get up there and be like, Trump is saying mean things. He said retarded, boo hoo hoo. It's like, here, look, this took us 2 seconds to find this.
But look, this is what Donald Trump has done. He's normalized this type of hateful behavior and this type of language.
Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. And when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the shit out of him back.
What we should demonize is people like Elon Musk. Although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
Right, so that took us 2 seconds to find out. That last one there, that's him wishing death on Donald Trump, and we have all the compilations of talking about getting their faces and don't give them a minute's peace and go to restaurants and all of the stuff that the Democrats do. So it's just like, I can't get that upset about Donald Trump saying retard, but it is good for the news shows on Sunday. Here is Tim Walz was then asked about it again. Here's Donald Trump then being asked, was the word retard a bit much when it comes to Tim Walz?
Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find an offensive word, retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
But you don't think
you have a problem with him? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
Yeah, so interestingly, Trump, I don't even know if it's intentional, but not only is he not apologizing for retarded, but he's also kind of using the word retarded in the proper way. He's saying there's something wrong with this guy. That he's retarded in his thinking of how he should be as the governor of Minnesota. It's actually true. And now it turns out, Trump is referencing this, there is a massive freaking scandal breaking right now in Minnesota that falls at the feet of Tim Walz. Listen to this from the New York Times. How fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch. Prosecutors say members of the Somali diaspora, a group with growing political power, were largely responsible. President Trump has drawn national attention to the scandal amid his crackdown on immigration. So if the New York Times has been forced to cover something bad that a Democrat governor did, it's bad. And now listen to this. This is from the Minnesota Department of Human Services employees, and this is a condensed version of the tweet, they are not holding back as to what Tim Walz did. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud. But no, we got the opposite response. Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports. Instead of partnership, we got the full weight of retaliation by Tim Walz, certain DFL members, and indifferent mainstream media. It's scary, isolating, and led us wondering who we can turn to. In addition to retaliating against whistleblowers, Tim Walz disempowered the Office of Legislative Auditor, allowing agencies to disregard their audit findings and guidance. This is a cascade of systemic failures leading up to Tim Walz. Agency leaders appointed by Tim Walz willfully disregarded rules and laws to keep fraud reports quiet, even to the extent of threatening families of whistleblowers. These same leaders are not qualified for their jobs, instead getting leadership jobs via Tim Walz's friendship. As staff, we firsthand witnessed and observed the fraud happening, yet we were shut down, reassigned, and told to keep quiet, sometimes more. Leadership did not want to appear to discriminate against certain communities and were unwilling to take actions such as stopping fraud that would have had an adverse impact on their image. To date, no single agency leader has been held responsible for their role in fraud, whether it's Shireen Gandhi, Jess Gill, Jody Harpstead, Natasha Mers, Eric Grumdahl, or others. Fundamentally, Tim Walz is dishonest, lacks ethics and integrity, has poor leadership abilities, and has never taken any accountability for his role in fraud. Instead, Tim Walz deflects by blaming national politics for his own failings and distracts the public with inveterate lying. These lies include his reference of a budget surplus under his tenure. Fact is, Minnesota never had a surplus. We had been given federal ARPA funds that were conflated as surplus money. Otherwise, we'd be in a deficit. And those ARPA funds, which were meant to be temporary funds, were used to create more leadership positions for Tim Walz buddies. As such, we can't fight fraud in Minnesota alone, hence why we're appealing to the federal levels of government. We need all the help we can get as Tim Walz agency leaders have upped their brazen approach in covering up their knowledge of fraud. Thank you, New York Times, for bringing the plight of Minnesota to the national stage. I know that was a lot of reading, guys, but that is rather fascinating. In essence, Tim Walz was leading a giant money laundering scheme that now sounds like, at the very least, was funneling money to the Somali community there, but possibly even across the world to Somalia itself. Tim Walz was asked over the weekend about this $1 billion scandal, and he somehow blamed Trump.
Well, speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail, but that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud. My God, there's a big difference between fraud and corruption is something he knows about.
Could you try answering the question? Who did you put in jail? And according to what I just read right there, there's an awful lot of people in your state that say you are the head. You're the head of the snake of corruption. And when whistleblowers came out and said there's a money laundering operation here and all the rest of it, you reassigned people, you silenced people, you fired people. There's some stink around you, Tim Walz, and it's a shame that we even have to talk about this guy because he's just an irrelevant nothing, but the people of Minnesota deserve better, so we shall see what happens with that. Guys, let me talk about Rumble Premium for a minute and then more in just a second. You know, if you really want to get the most out of Rumble, upgrade to Rumble Premium. With Premium, you'll get everything ad-free and distraction-free, plus access to creators who actually stand for something. If you want to support a platform that's genuinely built on free speech and not just talking about it, this is the way. Go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin. That's rumble.com/premium/Rubin for 10% off an annual membership. Join the movement. Okay, so let's stick with Minnesota, because Minnesota, not only have they become sort of the home of this Somali situation that seems wildly out of control, but also that then leads to all sorts of crime. Amy Klobuchar, Congresswoman and once presidential candidate, of the Democrats. Here she is, and she doesn't know about the crime. Excuse me. I was really trying. I think I got some of that hot sauce. Go.
Does Minnesota have a problem with gangs roaming the streets?
Every state has a problem with crime. But what the president has done here is taken a horrific crime that occurred in Washington, D.C., where one beloved Guard member is still struggling for his life. Another was shot and killed. And the perpetrator, the murderer, is behind bars and being prosecuted. He took that case and then he went 2,400 miles away to Somalia and somehow indicted an entire group of people, 80,000 of them in my state, as well as later all naturalized citizens, 24 million people in the United States of America.
Okay, lady, I get what you're doing. It's the same thing that Tim Walz did right there. Like, Trump is the bad guy. Someone gets shot. We talk about the problems of the integration of the Somali community or some of these other communities, and it's always Trump, and the implication is racism, and he's lying, and all of these things. And as I always say, Trump always ends up directionally right about these things. So this guy, Nick Shirley, we've shown you a couple of videos of him. He's doing great work. He just gets out there. Young guy gets out there wherever there's trouble on the streets, and he just starts interviewing people, often at great physical danger to himself. He went to Minnesota and he tried to interview some of the people that Klobuchar is talking about. And well, here are some Americans, apparently.
What's it like being a Muslim here in the United States?
I'm not speaking English, only one Somali language.
What does it mean to you to be a part of Islam?
I don't know, I'm not speaking English very well.
How are you? Do any of you speak English? English?
Somebody came up to us angry because we were asking people about the rise of Islam inside this
My name is
community.
Nick Shirley.
What are you doing?
My name is Nick Shirley. I'm a YouTuber. We're doing a video on the rise of Islam here in the United States.
The rise of Islam.
Yeah, it's the number one converting religion.
The rise of Islam. Make it make sense for me.
Yeah, it's the number one it's the number one converting religion in the United States. So we're doing a top
the
subject
number
on it.
one converting religion in the United States.
It's like the number one growing religion. I've never been in a situation like that while I've been filming, where somebody comes out of nowhere and wants to take the footage. I was watching a video prior to this video, and there is a Somali gang war going on here.
All right, so first off, he's a brave kid, and I've met him once, and I hope he takes the proper security precautions doing these things. Now, I want to just make it clear, look, whether some of those people, whether they actually speak English or not, or they just don't want to be on camera, or whatever else, all moot, and even removing the religion part of it for a second. Let's try to do that. If you have a city in the United States where you've brought in all of these people and, you know, they dress their women in a certain way and they don't talk to others and they're really not part of a wider community and they have all of these other beliefs and everything else. Again, moving off the religion part, I'm just talking about like people's day-to-day, how they're operating. Are they in the community? Are they out there? Are they volunteering with other communities and helping other people and becoming part of the gestalt of America? If you don't have that, then what is America? America then is just an empty vessel for people to just come and get theirs and basically eat the carcass of the dead whale. And I don't think that's what America is. And that's why he's there. That's why people are interested in this stuff. Who did we bring here and why did we bring them? And again, this isn't talking about people that came illegally through the southern border. These are people, however they came, those people, whether they came from Somalia or if we're talking about other people that came from Afghanistan or elsewhere, what are their beliefs when it comes to women's rights? I'm going to guess that some of those women would prefer not to wear those outfits. But are they allowed, and what would happen to them if they took them off? What would the husbands do? So there's a whole bunch of things that the left should care about here, because the left usually cares about, they pretend to care about minorities, and they pretend to care about women, and they pretend to care about gays and everything else. But ironically, they hold sort of Islam and the idea of the brown person is above all of that. It is what it is. But it's not just happening in Minnesota. This is an interesting one out of Dearborn, Michigan. We've talked about Dearborn, and these guys seem like, maybe we can invite these guys to the holiday party in a couple of weeks.
No one divide us, because only one nation under God. Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's just move on. If we don't deal with some of this stuff and just like figure out who the hell are these people, why is the sword blaring man and the other guy, and like what is going on here? You know what's going to happen, guys? We're going to end up like Western Europe, and the UK, as I keep telling you, the UK is cooked. France is fucked. these countries, Brussels, the Netherlands is screwed. Like they did not protect their borders. They did not protect their culture. They don't have guns. They don't have enough strongmen. We have so many defenses still, but we have to deal with this stuff now. Otherwise, we will end up like London. And here is London. Here, imagine you're just a decent Brit trying to go Christmas shopping in London over this past weekend, and here come the pro-Hamas people.
Palestine! Shut it down for Palestine! Shut it down for Palestine! Killing children is a crime!
Now, remember, there's a ceasefire right now. Have these people done anything to... They don't do anything other than destroy. Palestine is a state which never existed, concocted in the minds of people who want to destroy the states they live in. That is the absolute truth. But if we just keep letting these people in, and these protests are continuing everywhere, what are you protesting? There's a ceasefire. The Israelis got their people out, largely thanks to Trump. I know you don't like him and you really don't like the Israelis, but then they honored their word and that's it. There's some border now and there's some reconstruction already happening. The Al-Shifa hospital's already been rebuilt. But it's a mess. It's a huge mess, and we have a small window, I would say, to deal with it. Otherwise, we will end up like that. Or I mean, there were so many videos over the weekends of what's going on at Christmas festivities and at Christmas shopping centers all over Europe, where they have massive soldier. First off, they have barricades everywhere. They have soldiers standing guarding shops. Like, is that what we want? How many videos have you seen over the years of a Christmas event where somebody just plows through the crowd in a car? Like, that is where we're getting to here, unless we deal with it now. And again, I do think our window is narrowing, but we do have a window. I want to show you this video because it was also going viral over the weekend. Tucker, who it's just been very disappointing to see his trajectory over the last year or so, never doing anything pro-America, certainly never doing anything pro-Trump or anything else, really going in on this crazy, I would say, neo-isolationist and revisionist history and a whole bunch more. Here he is going after Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson, we've played a bunch of videos of him. He is probably the last man standing in all of the UK who's defending his country, who's getting millions of people to march against this, who's getting British people to carry British flags, and it might be too late for them, but this guy is fighting freaking hard. Here is Tucker, who has interviewed him, pretending he doesn't know who he is.
And it's cool because you have soccer games with foreigners at them and good burrata. Yeah. And I'm just saying maybe something about the heroic British spirit has been diminished with time. That's all I'm saying.
But there is a very lovely, quaint notion being built up in the United States, driven by people like Tommy Robinson here.
Who's Tommy Robinson?
You know Tommy Robinson.
He seems like a fraud to me.
Well, he's not even Tommy Robinson. His name's Stephen Yaxley. It's not even his real name. He's also convicted of multiple crimes. Thuggery, fraud.
I don't even know anything about him, but he doesn't seem like he's that into Britain.
We would call him a little stirrer, right? However,
But the real people here, the actual Britons.
Okay, so first off, if you saw my interview with Piers a couple weeks ago, we talked a bit about Tommy Robinson, and he does not like Tommy at all. Tommy, I think, has been an absolute warrior for his own country. But what I thought was particularly interesting is as we've watched Tucker sort of descend into this madness, one of the little tricks that he's doing is he pretends not to know people who he knows. He's done this with me a couple weeks ago. It was like, Dave Rubin, whoever that is. Well, you blurbed my book, dude. He's done this with Josh Hammer. He's done this with Seth Dillon from the Babylon Bee. And now he's doing it with Tommy Robinson. He just pretends not to know people who he's interviewed or blurbed books for or was friends with or anything else. Here is Tucker talking about Tommy Robinson in 2018.
Well, with that in mind, Tommy Robinson in the UK is spending 13 months in jail. His crime, trying to cover the trial of a sex grooming ring. In Great Britain, trying to highlight rape and assault committed by migrants is now considered a sinister crime. You know what's not quite as bad as that, it turns out, in the UK? Child pornography. Tony Aslett, he was...
I don't know what happened to that version of Tucker. I have no idea what happened. He says he got mauled by a demon and maybe the demon won. I guess that might be it. But I guess it's possible he doesn't remember one guest, but he has a series of people he doesn't seem to remember. But okay, putting all that aside, what's strange is someone like that Tucker from 6-7 years ago was for strong borders, was, largely for American culture and defending all of those things. And now he seemingly is against all that. Again, never says anything good about the Trump administration or what they've done. He seems to be on a sort of demoralization mission about American history and World War II and Winston Churchill and all of these things. And here is Tommy Robinson unloading on Tucker.
Tucker Carlson. I've got Tucker Carlson on the video yesterday talking about he has more in common with his Pakistani taxi driver than he does some white middle-class American. Yeah, what do you know? What does Tucker Carlson know about living in a Pakistani town? 50% of my town's Pakistani. You don't know nothing about Pakistani taxi drivers. We do. We're beaten up by them our growing up. Our daughters are abused by them. Our wives are harassed by them. Yet you pretend you know something. What do you know in the United States of America about growing up around Islamic immigration? They all talk about, well, the Muslims and the Christians are together. Yeah, come and say that in Europe. Come and experience that in Europe. We're not together. They're not with us, you clowns. But I listen to all these new right-wing commentators talking just because they hate Jews or hate Israel, saying we need to work together with the Muslims. Yeah? Come and speak to people who live with Islam. It's infuriating.
Who's telling the truth? Is it Tommy right there or is it Tucker? I think you know the answers. In 2018, there was Tucker, old version of Tucker, saying that, boy, Tommy was a great guy for calling out this bullshit. And we know all about the Pakistani rape gangs and everything else. But also just real quick, and I don't enjoy doing the Tucker thing. It's like, Tucker, like, it's so easy to be like, well, I have more in common with the Pakistani cab driver. Okay, what do you mean by that? Do you have dinner with these people? Have you ever hung out with a Pakistani? Try to imagine Tucker sitting with a Pakistani. Like, it's just absurd, right? He is rich. He is elite. I know he pretends everyone else is elite and he pretends he's not rich. And when that kid said you're worth $50 million at the Turning Point thing a couple weeks ago, he threatened to punch him. But it's like, it's just like, it's so profoundly absurd what he's doing. But the reason I'm mentioning all that, I don't like these little, like, internet fights. I don't like them, but I think sometimes if we don't address them, they start just metastasizing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I was very glad to see over the weekend, my friend Jillian Michaels had another friend of mine, Don Jr. on the show, and she asked, now Jillian is very similar to me and many of you guys. She was someone of the left her entire life. She happened to wake up around COVID. She's now in what I would say is the Wide 10 Maha movement, MAGA movement, but she comes sort of from the Maha angle because she was a health and fitness person first. But she absolutely is a Trump supporter. She's been sort of surprised about all her new conservative friends and all the rest of it. And she, like me, wants to keep this tent as wide as possible. So she's alarmed that people who are praising Hitler are sort of being welcomed into the MAGA movement by Tucker. So she brought Don Jr. on and they talked about that. I thought she was quite excellent. All right, I've said enough, go.
Now you're starting to see some of the things in the alt-right fringe of the Nick Fuentes and the young Republican group chat that is racist and that is scary and sexist to an alarming degree. With someone like Nick Fuentes. And I'm wondering, you're seeing this kind of fracture of the left. I'm seeing people who are more moderate become alarmed. And people on the right are like, yeah, whatever, not a big deal. I'm here to tell you it's a big deal. And I think it's a big deal because all of those people that your dad invited in, Tulsi, Kennedy, myself, inadvertently, right? All of these more, Rogan, all of these more moderate people who flee the crazy on the left are alarmed if the right doesn't disavow the Nick Fuenteses.
Okay, so I'm going to show you Don's response. Don't worry, I'm going to show you the response. But I just think it was worth illustrating right there that this is I'm an old convert at this point, right? And I say it all the time. If I'm proud of one thing that I've done politically, proud of a lot of things that I've built and businesses and all that stuff. But like politically, it's that I helped widen that tent. And so she's just aboard. And what she's saying is, man, you guys, I just came into this new house and I didn't realize that you have a guy up there in the third bedroom to the right that says he's on Team Hitler. That seems like a little bit of a problem. Anyway, here is Don's response as to the radicals in the MAGA situation.
And it doesn't mean, I'm not saying cancel Tucker Carlson. That is not what I'm saying. I wish Tucker had handled him differently. I have no problem saying that. But I do think it's going to be a problem. And I'm wondering if you see it as a problem for the right in the midterms and in 2028. Because I think if this continues without it being fully condemned aggressively.
I'm a little torn on the issue. I think sometimes, having been canceled and having, for even common sense things, I'm not about cancel culture, but I think sometimes, I don't know that you have to platform everyone, but, let them sort of speak. And I think some of those radicals, they sort of give themselves up. And I'm sort of a free speech absolutist, but that doesn't mean there's not consequences to that speech. And if you hear some people speak and you don't like, it's like, man, I sort of feel like they almost cancel themselves, and not with censorship, but by people being like, okay, that's not even a reasonable position. We're just not going to listen to this person anymore.
Okay, so look, I think what Don said there was right, and it's true. And you could see he's not a politician right now, right? Like he's in the private sector, but he could be a politician in the future. He could be a president in the future, and he's trying to balance many things there. But he is, first off, he's sensitive to cancel culture, right? As we all are, right? Like I've had the New York Times try to cancel me, and YouTube used to mess with us, and all of those things, right? So he doesn't want to cancel people. And as she pointed out, as Jillian points out, this isn't about cancel culture, right? She would have conducted the interview differently or wished that Tucker would have done it differently. But Tucker talks shit about people for a living, and then people are allowed to talk about him. What I do like about what he said there at the end was that the radicals give themselves up. In essence, that if you let these people talk enough, that most people will eventually see what it is. And, I always say this thing about when people would criticize me years ago, when I bring on, sort of a standard conservative, a Larry Elder or a Ben Shapiro or Jordan or Dennis Prager, people would say, Dave, you didn't ask hard enough questions, right? It was too nice. And I always felt like if you ask people what they think, that you eventually, if they don't know what they're doing, or if they actually are racist or have, awful ideas or whatever, you can kind of watch them wrap the noose around the neck and hang themselves. So that's what Don is saying, that you allow this. Now, I would, my one criticism would be, okay, and maybe she should have asked this, would be specifically, okay, so should we be on the same side as someone that says they're on Team Hitler? That would have been an interesting question. But anyway, let's leave that there. I want to show you one video of this guy, Nick Fuentes, though, because he, yes, it's a little unclear. Is he a troll? Is he just like what? It doesn't even matter what he is in some sense, but he seems to have captured the imagination of a certain amount of young people. And people think it has something to do with on the right, but on the right, people are into liberty and individual rights and the things that this country was founded upon. The lofty ideals that we could figure out a bottom way up of organizing society. That is what the founders fundamentally believed in, right? But this guy is doing something very, very dangerous. Listen to the flip on that. He apparently no longer believes that liberty is the highest virtue. Guess what he believes the highest virtue is? Go.
The problem with libertarianism is that liberty is not the highest political virtue. The highest political virtue is order. That is the greatest ordering principle. That is the greatest governing principle, order. Order comes first, liberty comes second, and order has to be maintained by a powerful state. Order has to be maintained by authority. And where does authority proceed from? Force, guns, overwhelming force, power that comes out of the end of a rifle, and legitimacy. The people have to believe in the authority of the state. And if these things are being undermined by freedom, by liberty, then you don't get liberty.
Ooh, even at the end there, the way he's so look, I get it, he's an actor, he's LARPing, I don't know what he believes, he's like a closeted weirdo and troll and okay, all of that stuff. But the way he's so dismissive about freedom and everything he said there is the complete reverse. There is something above us, but it is not order that a government with guns forces us down. It's God. That's what the founders believed, right? Okay, while they were also saying that the state would not force you into any religion, would not create the conditions of order that would make you believe in something that you don't believe in. But everything he said there is the complete reverse of what the founding of America is. But there is this new, I would say it is a new inclination of people on the right to somehow suddenly, instead of saying we're for individual rights, we're for live and let live, we're for laissez-faire economics, we want the system to allow for as much variation as possible and so that you can make choices for yourself. There is this weird thing brewing on the right. I think it's deeply connected to the Tucker thing, which is if we could just have enough power and force as many people to live the way we wish, that everything would be, then there would be peace, as Palpatine said, which is exactly what the horseshoe theory of politics is, right? People on the left, they always want more and more power because they just want to organize society in a way that they want. Well, that's exactly what he's saying from what is thought of as a right perspective. But I thought we could shift back for a moment to Scott Jennings, because while I'm playing you some drivel right there, here is Scott Jennings for all of the fighting that is going on the right now, talking about how Trump still has this thing on lockdown.
Go to the data, CNN's own data from our own data analyst Harrington. President Trump has an 87% approval rating among Republicans, which is higher than Barack Obama's approval rating among Democrats at this point in his term, higher than where George W. Bush was in his term. He is the strongest, for his own party, strongest president at this point in his second term in the modern era. And by the way, She stands with a group of isolationists who just happen to disagree with the president over, say, taking away Iran's nuclear weapons and some other issues. That's fine. He's the president, she's not. And if you want to talk about whether the president has a hold on his party or whether he's a lame duck, I'll just submit that when he withdrew his endorsement of Green, she lasted a week and then had to resign from Congress. That's not weakness. That is strength.
Yeah, and that's important to know. So obviously he's talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She'll be resigning right after Christmas, right after the New Year. I think on January 5th, she's going to officially step down. So she gets in this fight with Trump, and then her resolution, I'm a fighter, is to step away from politics. She came into politics about a decade ago worth $700,000. She's worth $25 million right now. So people might want to think about that. But okay, so fighting on the right aside, I was trying to think, we're just back from Thanksgiving. First day of December, we're rolling into holidays and everything. How can we end the show on a positive note? Because there's a lot of craziness, and it feels like there's just so much craziness just like in the system that it could just go off at any moment again. And I saw this wonderful video this weekend. It was such a joy to watch. Dick Van Dyke, he is still alive. It is incredible. He is about, I think, can you check? I think he's 99. I think he's going to turn 100 in like a month or so. And he's living a good life, and he's still lifting weights, and he's still telling jokes. And I saw this on Instagram. Here he is talking about what has helped him live long, and it's letting go of.
I feel really good, but for 100, but I really don't. I have no pain, no discomfort. People say, "What did you do right?" And I say, "Don't ask. I don't know." I'm rather lazy, and I think I've always thought that anger is one thing that eats up a person's insides, and hate. I never really was able to work up a feeling of hate. The things I don't like, people I don't like and disapprove of, but I never really was able to do a white heat kind of hate. And my father was a person who was constantly upset by the state of things in his life and everything. And it did take him at 74 years old. I think that is one of the chief things that kept me going.
I don't know how we scale that to the political part, but I always say, I don't have a lot of hate in my heart, and sometimes I have a little lockbox where I can put a little hate into because it's hard to sublimate all of it. But basically what he says, I didn't have it in me to hold all of that hate. And then he relates it to his dad, who died at 74, and he's 99 right now. I realized as we played that there's probably anyone under 30. Do you have any idea who Dick Van Dyke even is? Right? For me at 49, he was old then. Right? The Dick Van Dyke Show was in black and white way back when. He did many, many other things over the years. But I think that maybe is I think what he is saying there is something that I will consistently. It's something I do consistently try to do, but I will consistently try to do even more, which is that come at some of this without the hate. There's a lot of people like that Nick Fuentes clip, that's hate driven, to say if we just had the guns and we just had the power, we could provide the order and you would listen to us. That's a hate movement. Some of the stuff that Tucker is doing these days, that is pure hate. Let's figure out the other option. And I think it's a better option. I think it's the more human option. And even if I'm wrong, I'm going to keep trying. Post-game show, 30 seconds, RubinReport.locals.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow.